Hey Coach, it seems like within these first few games that toughness, physicality, that's kind of been like a recurring theme. You've talked about it, players have talked about it. But Sarah Ashley in particular, as a rookie, it seems like she kind of brings that toughness out there. She walked in here the other day with a black eye.
And see it now.
Just what have you seen from her as a rookie in terms of being able to respond early on to the physicality in this league?
Yeah, it is different. I mean, it is so physical, and the thing with her, we've kind of thrown her in the deep end. As a rookie, you ideally like to learn and kind of develop and all those things. Get your sea legs a little bit, and we just, with Rakia's injury, it was, and Ray's, we're down 3 key players with Cam, Rakia, and Ray. And so, she's been thrown in the fire a little bit, but I'm super proud of her, and I didn't even know she had gotten hit in the eye until there was the timeout with like a minute to go. It's like black and blue and starting to swell, and she just doesn't react. So she just keeps getting up and keeps swinging, and that's gonna help her be a pro for a long time.
Anthony DeLeon, LA Times. Coach, I preface this knowing that every game has its importance, but how much is a game like this important in terms of, like a must-win in terms of, not the big picture, but, just turning the tide of the last week, boosting confidence, morale, things like that?
100%, absolutely. I do pride myself in being process-driven, and we won 8 games last year. It's gonna take time. We're in a results-driven industry, and I accept that, and I like that. But to get where we want to go, it's not going to happen in a week because we wanted to. Like, we've got to continue building the right way and creating good habits and expectations, and we've been inconsistent in that on the court when games happen, and that's a learning process. But as we want to climb, and as we, everybody wants to make the playoffs, you got to win the home games that you can. And Chicago's had a tough schedule. If you look at who they've played, they've played a really hard schedule, and so they're kind of in the same boat as us. So today I would imagine they're saying is a must-win for them too, in a different set, or a different mindset. But yeah, it's important, and I think we do need to get some mojo going.
Mike Hill, Matthew, LA Sparks Weekly. Coach, Julie has been back a couple games. What have you seen from her, and how has the trio of guards with her, Odyssey, and KP kind of grown together here these first 2 games?
Yeah, I think it's a work in progress, and Julie's been out of the W for a few years, and it's an adjustment. And you come back from an injury. She had, when she landed here on a Friday from Turkey, and then at 7 a.m. the next morning she had a minor surgery. And so that's tough. And anytime you're injured, it takes a minute before you trust your body, you trust everything. But she's good. She's a heck of a player. And I thought, in the 4th quarter the other night, she started to look like herself a little bit. And again, that just takes time. We have to have a sense of urgency. And I was disappointed that it took 30 minutes in our last game to play with that urgency, but we also need to be patient, understanding that these players, they want to do right. They're trying to do everything we can. Julie's a great example of that. But I think every time she's out there, you're going to see her get more and more comfortable, and the players are comfortable, and they start playing confidently. When they're playing confidently, they play their potential. But it's a great, she's great to have. She's a point guard, a true point guard that can get us organized, and she did a great job of that in the 4th quarter. So the 3 of them, kind of at the 1-2 is a good rotation right now.
Coach John F. Davis with the Southern California News Group. What have you done since Friday night to be able to sustain the type of effort that a team needs to win a game over 40 minutes?
Well, we haven't, this is the hard part. This will be our 4th game in 7 days, or no, this is our 3rd game in 5 days. Tuesday will be our 4th and 7. So it's not, as I've said many times, it's not a practicing league. It's not like you can get out there and work on it, because, the players will just be fried. So it's a lot of film, and a lot of accountability in that regard. But you have to turn the page. You got to move on. And so the last 36 hours. It's been all Chicago focus. But the players, they know, they're as annoyed as we all are, and you guys are, that we didn't put our, we gotta play better. We gotta play with urgency for 40 minutes. So it's mindset, it's film, it's talking about it, it's game planning, but it's 99% mental when you play this many games.
Jim Alexander from the Southern California News Group. Lynn, I know players coming from college to the pros have an adjustment. Is that true for coaches as well? And if so, what kinds of things are you getting acclimated to, reacclimated to on this level?
Yeah, and basketball's basketball. To me, it's been a good transition for me from just a basketball standpoint. These players are better, and they're bigger, stronger, faster, more skilled. So you start off on a higher level with things you can do. The adjustment for me is just not having really practice time. I think that's the big adjustment, in learning how to teach and how to make adjustments, how to add things, tweak things without really getting practice time. That's been a learning curve for me, but I'm getting the hang of it.
Rashawn in the back, and then Nikki.
Hey, Coach. Rashawn Ayler. Odyssey's been tenacious defensively so far. What was it like to see her get going offensively the other night?
That was great, and obviously they were kind of daring her to shoot, and I'm proud of her that she took them and didn't hesitate. She's a dynamic player, and defensively, when she sets the tone like that, everyone kind of gets going on the defensive end, and I want her to continue to be aggressive offensively, and she hasn't shot for percentage around the rim like I know she can and will. But the worst thing she could do is to start being hesitant, because her strength is in her aggressiveness, and that's a mentality. And so I just keep pumping her up to just keep being her. And I think her speed and explosiveness and power and all those things provide something that other players on our team don't have. So she just needs to continue to stay aggressive. And to your point, I love that she hit those threes, and that's going to make teams think about daring her to shoot.
Hey Coach, as you install and teach your type of offense, I'm sure turnovers are to be expected with the learning curve, but did you see a commonality, especially in Friday's turnovers, and how you need to start addressing them?
Yes, I did. Turnovers are going to happen. There's a whole column on a stat sheet for them. You don't want them, but in a game where our system is predicated on chances, right? We want to have more chances than the other team, meaning we don't turn it over as much and we rebound better. If we're taking high quality shots, then the analytics will say that we should win most of the time. So if we're turning it over, that from the jump hurts us in kind of the philosophy. I thought some of our turnovers were just sloppy, poor execution, lack of focus, and not to discredit their defense, but it was that some of them were avoidable, and those are the ones we cannot have those. So I'm hoping that's better today. We've certainly talked about it, showed it on film, and they seem bought into what we're trying to do.
Coach, you said without this being a practicing league, it's 90% mental, and you had to change the way you think about your staff. You could have more mental performance stuff, or just okay.
Yeah, there's all of that. The resources are great. I think this organization does an amazing job of providing the players everything they need, from all those ancillary services, whether it's the mental coaching, psychologist stuff, get the things to get their bodies right, whether it's massage or whatever. So yeah, all of that is very much in play, Sabrina, very much.
Hi Coach, Charlotte with FI360 News.
Hi.
Today's matchup against the Twin Towers with Cardosa and Jerice, what are your preparations in going to the game as far as with your roster for today? Yeah,
I mean, they have the size advantage inside, but that knife cuts both ways. They've got to guard us, but they're good, and they're young, and they play hard, and I think they run really good stuff for them. So I think we just need to be aggressive. I think with a team like that, with dominant posts, if you let them get to their stuff and get catches where they want to, you're playing with fire. So we need to be as disruptive as we can, and not letting, particularly those two, get the ball where they're very, very effective.
Last two quick questions, Jackie and then Justin.
Hey Coach Jackie TV. We talked about the toughness. We saw the black eye with SA, but we also saw her be kind of emotional during the post game, the last game. Is she beating herself up a little bit, or is she coming to you and saying, hey, I saw this in myself and this is what I really want to work on?
I think both. You know, she's a high achiever in all things, and she has a high standard for herself. No one puts pressure on her more than she puts on herself. I think she understands the opportunity that she's been given, and she just wants it so bad. It's, you know, the bar of soap analogy. If you squeeze it too hard, it just goes shooting out of your hands. There's a little bit of that. And so, you know, my message to her has been, just keep being you, just take a little air out of the tires. Like, we believe in you, we trust you, you're gonna, you know. And so I think that's what you're seeing, is just someone that's been given this opportunity and is such a high achiever and wants to do right and wants to do what she's asked to do. Sometimes if you try too hard, it just goes shooting out of your hands.
Last question.
Coach, you've talked about how you've watched film within the last 36 hours getting ready for Chicago, but how do you get this team to mentally not dwell on the last 3 games while also understanding the things that they need to improve and not worry about what can go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where they have to be pros. Like, it's not, you know, I'm a big believer in turning the page, and like I said, after the loss, like, had we won, we still need to turn the page, right? So you have to move on. But that doesn't mean you don't learn from it, and so you have to learn from it and watch the film and have the hard accountability point outs, but these guys want to achieve. They're not in their feelings, they're not feeling sorry for themselves. You have to have that next game, next play mentality, and just get up and keep swinging. And it's gonna be 40 more times, right? Like, we just gotta keep getting up. Whether we win by 20 or lose in a tough game, you just have to keep getting up, and that's the message that I'm preaching, and modeling. I'm not harping on Friday, but we need to play with urgency, and I will remind them of that. But it's not, I'm not gonna bring up the loss. You just gotta move on.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.